I think we're still coming in from the coffee break, but we will slowly get started with our last session of the day. This wonderful panel that is going to take us into a broader view of phenotyping, take us maybe not away from the science, but let us put into perspective the science and the future potential that it leads to. So as I said earlier, we have a panel of scientists and entrepreneurs here who understand the potential of the science in the world. Our panel moderator is Dr. Jessica Schneider, who has a few decades of experience as a microbiome researcher, but also experience in venture, both private and public, and a huge passion for looking at human health through the lens of systems biology. So without any further ado, I will leave this panel to Jessica. So please welcome Jessica and the rest of our panelists for the last panel of the day.
Okay, so it's the end of day one, and everyone's probably getting tired. And I think we're all aware that we stand between you and happy hour or dinner, whatever is next. Are all the sessions being recorded, like on video? Yes? Oh, okay, so I have to watch what I say. Well, that also presents an opportunity, I think. It was clear this morning, I think Kitano-san set up the theme for the day. I think we can safely say the long tail is the theme of day one. So if the organizers don't mind, I would propose we have a betting pool on who can, for the rest of Converge, most accurately use the long tail theme, and maybe we analyze the video footage to come up with a winner. So pay attention, because if you want to be a part of the betting pool, you're going to have to see who can continue to use the long tail. Okay, so first of all, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for the organizers for allowing me to sit with this immense panel to my left. And it's really my pleasure to introduce our distinguished panelists, each of whom has a very unique perspective from business or science into systems biology and computation. I'll start by introducing them, and then we'll kind of launch some questions into the various ventures and research fields that they're a part of. So you all just heard from Dr. Eran Segal, sitting to my left. He's a professor at the Department of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics at the Weizmann in Israel. He leads a lab with a multidisciplinary team of computational biologists and experimental scientists. And his group has extensive experience in AI, machine learning, computational biology, and the analysis of heterogeneous, high-throughput genomic data. You just saw that the research focuses on microbiome, nutrition, genetics, and their effects on health and disease. The overarching theme of his research is to develop personalized medicine based on data from large-scale and deeply phenotyped human cohorts. He's published over 200 publications and has received several awards and honors for his work, including the Overton Prize and the Michael Bruno Award. In addition, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Eran developed models for analyzing the dynamics of the pandemic and served as a senior advisor to the government of Israel. Welcome, Eran. Welcome back.
Thank you.
To Eran's left is Dr. June Seita, who just informed me of the correct pronunciation of Liken, so I'm going to make sure I get that right. He's the team director of the medical science deep learning team there at the Center for Interdisciplinary, Theoretical, and Mathematical Sciences. His pioneering research focuses on applying deep learning to medical and health data, aiming to predict future health conditions and enhance disease prevention strategies. He's a trained physician scientist, so truly his work bridges artificial intelligence and medicine, which contributes to advancements in personalized healthcare here in Japan in particular. And then our final panelist is Ms. Chieko Mori, who's the Chief Business Officer at Corundum Systems Biology. She brings extensive leadership experience from her previous roles at Astellas Pharma, where she led global business development to expand corporate portfolio and capability, as well as digital transformation of the entire organization. At Corundum, she leverages her experience in strategic business growth and operational management to advance innovation in systems biology and the life sciences, by connecting transformative science with commercial and investment opportunities. In addition, she is the CEO of the Human Phenotype Project here in Japan, which is building the largest, deepest multimodal human data atlas in the country. Welcome to all of our panelists, and please join me in welcoming them. So I'm glad that we just got our keynote on the Human Phenotype Project. Eran, we're looking at investors, scientists looking to transition their careers once they leave OIST, perhaps into an entrepreneurship vehicle. Truly, the HPP is an entrepreneurial endeavor. Can you walk us through the maybe emotional moment or innovative process? When and what hit you? We saw that there was inspiration from the Human Genotype Project, but tell us more about that moment that led you to say, I really want to act on this particular project.
Okay. Well, I have to say, I don't think there was a moment. It wasn't like that. I think, well, it actually started with a smaller cohort that I presented, looking at initially nutrition and the microbiome, initially out of personal interest that I had. But once we built that cohort of 1,000 people and we saw that you can get useful insights out of it, I think the next kind of obvious step was to say, well, so let's maybe scale that and look not just at nutrition, not just at the microbiome, but more holistically about human health, and not just 1,000 people, but we had a target of 10,000 people, which at the time we thought for a single lab was going to be crazy, and I still think for a single lab it's crazy. But then 6 years later, with a lot of help from actually many people here, many people working with me, I mean, a lot of devoted people, we actually surpassed that, and now we're at 13,000 and scaling to other countries, which we never thought would happen. So I don't think there wasn't like a moment, but I will say that sometimes there are moments where I stop and think about everything that we've done. Also, as a single lab, raising about $50 million in grants, which was not easy, and we write for grants from 25,000 to millions. We write for all of them. I think I'm pretty happy about what we were able to achieve, because I think sometimes there are those moments that I think it's crazy and unthinkable.
Okay, so the take-home lessons are: team, it's okay to be a little crazy, or maybe a lot crazy, and start small and build from there. Yeah.
There's a word in Hebrew for this that I don't know how to translate. It's called, but maybe some people know. It's called chutzpah. So it's like maybe the free translation is you try to do something that is crazy, basically.
Okay, digging a little bit deeper on this, can you talk to us about the novel computational approaches that are enabling effective fusion of the disparate biological modalities? I know there are people in the audience who, in the post-ChatGPT world, who are thinking about how do we analyze data, how do we integrate complexity. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I would say the models that we're all using, they actually existed. They existed for decades. But there were some now, I would say, a few changes. One is the models have become somewhat smarter, but also it's the scale of the data that we had, which really allowed us to move away from the traditional machine learning approaches, which are typically you build one model for a particular task. For example, you try to take some data and predict who has the disease and who does not. And those are very bespoke models for a particular task, into models that we call them foundational models, because they're not trying initially to learn any one particular task. They're trying to learn and capture some general information about the data, such that these models could then be taken and fine-tuned for many different tasks. So what I mean by that is the way, by and large language models are trained is, as I mentioned briefly in my talk, they basically took all of the data that's available textually, which is a lot of data if you think about the World Wide Web, And basically then they play this game of you hide a single word and you try to use all of the other text to predict that word. So if you think about a sentence, you hide some word and you use all the other words to predict that. So if you do that, two things happen. First of all, you have a lot of training data, because now it's not just labels on an article like, is this a news article, is this a sports article, but every single word in that article becomes a word that you can train on, because every time you hide it and you try to predict it from everything else. So you have a lot more data. But the second thing that happens is that it turns out when you learn these types of models and you become very, very good at a task like predicting the next word, in order to be successful at that, you had to learn something very fundamental about language. Okay? So by having a lot of data, that's the opportunity to learn something, and by being very successful at that, you learn something very fundamental that you can then take and adapt to many other tasks, and even do actually much, much better at those other tasks than models that were trained specifically for that. For example, in text, if you look at machine translation, this is a task that people have been working on for many, many years with a lot of progress, but now these large language models, they're much better than the best models ever trained directly on translation, because they actually probably learned something fundamental about language that is not very specific to a specific language that they learned it from, but it's something more abstract that could then be translated into different languages.
Well, pivoting off that, Seita Sensei, you're also developing algorithms and looking at large-scale data sets, but here in Japan. Can you talk to us about some of the data types you're using and the scale at which you're using them, and how you are adapting deep learning architectures that handle both the size, the dimensionality, and maybe the noise inherent in some of the data that you look at here in Japan?
Yeah, so I have been working on the AI for medicine in Japan for 8 years. And we all saw how powerful AI is, especially for after the ChatGPT emerged. Okay, so now everybody really understand how powerful it is. But without data, the AI is useless. Okay. So it's kind of the fuel for the AI. Okay, so then when we started the AI for medicine in Japan, I realized. So I would like to ask all of you: when is the last time you visited the doctor? Yeah. Then what was the last time? Okay. So the sampling frequency is once a month. Okay. So we only have 12 data points per year. Okay. So, or if in Japan there is a kind of the mandatory health check if you are the employee of the company, but from age 20 to 50, the data point is just 30. Okay. So that's we call small data. Okay. So if we want to apply the power of like the ChatGPT to the healthcare world, we need much, much more data. So, but then I realized if we go to the operation room or the intensive care unit, that's a very special field. So those, the special monitors are sampling patient status 250 times per second. Okay, so that's the kind of data we can directly apply to the power of deep learning right now. Okay, then all of the other medical data are very, very shallow. Okay, and if you are healthy, you don't have your own data enough for the deep learning level of the AI. So we need to switch how we need to generate, for example, my data or your data if we want to apply the power of AI. So that's the point.
Excellent. Mori-san, we learned in Eran's talk about HPP Japan getting off the ground, and you are the leader of HPP Japan. Can you describe the key features of HPP Japan, and what are you expecting the value of HPP Japan to be, and what may be the obstacles that you're facing or that you are already facing?
Yeah, so I think all of you already learned from Professor Eran about the HPP itself. And I'm so pleased to inform you that we just recently started the Japanese cohort in February. We have a very great great partner to proceed this HPP cohort in Japan. So today we have a guest from Meiji Holdings. Thank you for coming. But we are together with Meiji-san and some other stakeholders to move forward for Japanese cohort, which is very powerful for us to move forward. I think like Japanese cohort, I believe that we can contribute Japanese cohort in a many ways for not only to the researchers but also other stakeholders like the commercial companies or any other people who are interested in Japanese people. Since Japanese are very much famous to be very healthy and long life, so that is different from other population. Adding Japanese population to Israeli cohort, I think that's going to be the very powerful, insight we can create by analyzing those, data, the difference between Japanese versus other cultural background people, or Japanese specific key factors we can see for the key to contribute to humans' well-being or healthier the people's life. The adding Japanese people as a second country besides Israel is very much meaningful because the life, the people's life or lifestyle is very different from Japanese versus Israel. So I think we can capture the very key characteristic by adding Japanese cohort.
Great, and now a question for the entire panel. You're all working on cohort data from various geographies, different flavors of data. For maybe the investors in the audience and those thinking about medicine more specifically, what are the measurable biomarkers or endpoints that you're seeing in your cohort studies that maybe offer the most near-term potential for diagnostic or therapeutic commercialization? I'm going to start with Seita Sensei because we heard a little bit from Eran in the talk, and maybe we have to give you a break, Chieko, since you just got HPP off the ground.
Yeah, I think so. We can set the several type of the endpoint or the goal while we are running the time series cohort data collecting. As the Eran presented, right? So if the something can be determined by the snapshot, okay, then that is the short-term goal, okay. And if the something that need the time series data, then we have to wait to accumulate the time series data. Like I said that if you want to have the healthy, the working age people, then maybe you have to wait from 20 to the 50 or something like that. That takes 30 years. Okay, so even we use some algorithm, then we may shorten the time to the 50% or something like that. But then we need some patience on that. So, but yeah, so throughout running this the long endeavor, we can put the several types of goal. So the fruit will come time by time. Okay.
Great. And Eran, you walked us through some of the former models. Mm-hmm. Which one are you most excited about and think has the greatest potential for near-term translation to a product?
So first, I would say also to your question, looking at all the different modalities, I think the one that we find to be as a single one most informative is the metabolomics data. So because that is basically looking at thousands of different small molecules in the blood. And the way we think about it is kind of a hub that integrates the effects of many different aspects. So basically, it's also to some degree a readout of your genetics. It's a readout of your diet. It's a readout of your microbiome. We can even go backwards from the metabolomics into even telling what people are eating, even to some extent what bugs they have, and so on and so forth. So it's if you had to measure, in my view, one measure, which is also not too expensive and also fairly accessible from a blood draw, for me it would be metabolomics as a diagnostic, also as a prognostic. And also as an element that we know is very important, because we know that all the small molecules that circulate in our bloodstream, we know are key for our health. So that's regarding the biomarker. I think in terms of models, there's maybe a few of them. I'm very excited about the models like the one I showed, but this is just one example of linking obesity and the microbiome, because there we're finding very, very strong signals, very strong connections between the microbiome and human traits, excitingly much more than we are finding between human genetics and these traits. To me, it's not surprising, because we've shown earlier that the microbiome is actually very loosely linked to human genetics, meaning that it's an environmental factor. And we know that environmental factors are very key for all the very complex diseases like BMI, like blood pressure, and so on. So to me, it's not surprising, but the data is also showing us that. And so I think all these various discoveries are very strong, and I think they have a lot of potential. It's somewhat frustrating, because I think the path to go from these associations that we find in the data to actually having a product, a microbiome-based product, there's a path, and we can talk about the steps to get there. But I think that has a lot of potential in terms of kind of the more classical types of models that we're finding.
Okay, great. How are we on time? Okay. Okay. Mori-san, coming back to you, you have a very rich experience in your career in the pharmaceutical industry. We're talking a lot about human data cohorts and what's basically fundamental and translational research, but there is a gap between the data itself and an application of product that can be sold in private industry. What are you finding or thinking about with respect to HPP Japan that may be the major bottlenecks in transitioning a cohort finding into what would be the industrial grade data that would be necessary for product development? Maybe drug development is a good use case you could talk about. What are you thinking through in terms of those bottlenecks in your position in HPP right now?
Yeah, so there are many cohort data already exist in the world, as part of Eran's presentation also indicated about that. But from the industrial or farmers, the corporate perspective, sometimes it's really difficult to utilize such data, academic data, because some reasons, because sometimes combining academic data become a hurdle when the industry, like pharma company, try to utilize such data because the less standardized data quality or infrastructure. So that is not fully aligned protocols or designs or etc. There are wide variety utilizing the existing data. But the beauty of HPP data is that we are fully aligned at the beginning. So we the HPP study is very well designed before starting this kind of project globally. So as I just mentioned, we just started Japanese cohort, but our protocol is exactly same as Israel cohort. We use the same device. We use the same process to measure or take each the data sets. That is a really great advantage from the industrial farmers perspective. If there is a very fully aligned protocol and data set, we can simply utilize, regardless of the data from Israel or Japan or like any other places, HPP gonna future expand. As a one data set, if we use that, it can be make the industrial the usage easier than combining some pieces from each the different cohorts. That is one part, and also like some academic the cohort data set or like government led data set have the many limitations. Let's say like restriction in data sharing. It's sometimes really hard to utilize such data for commercial purposes or utilize such outcome to the commercial product as well. But HPP data is designed to utilize not only for the scientists but also the commercial purposes as well. That is well accepted by the other participant who can kindly share the data for us. So I think the HPP data is a very much the good or attractive data platform for the industrial perspective to use for both the very preliminary research purpose, but it also that will be a good fuel to produce the future commercial product for the patient or for the health people.
All right, excellent. So early alignment with your stakeholders and end users seem to be key here.
Yeah.
So on that note, for maybe some of the venture capital and investor folks looking at computational or AI-enabled health startups, one of the things that goes through my mind is, how do you evaluate what's critical about a new company that's employing, let's say, innovative computational methods? So one of the questions we talk about at CSB a lot when we're looking at new companies is, what is the critical intellectual property at this company, especially when they have a computational focus? Is it the data? Is it the models? Is it their validation pipeline? Or is it something else entirely? So in your respective positions, can you tell us what you see as maybe the critical IP in what you're working on and what maybe you hope becomes commercializable in the future?
I think the most important thing is the agreement with the participant and the project. Okay, because we all know that the data is very important, but at the same time we care about the privacy. Okay, so it's a never-ending the trade-off between this kind of the project. So then, in any cohort type of the project, we have an agreement or the consensus between the participant and the project. Okay, and it's very difficult to modify it during the project. So that's why the initial design of the cohort study is very, very important, or how that project was designed at the beginning. Okay. And I think this the ongoing the HPP project is I say the modern the design of the cohort study, and also I think at the same time the government or the people are also updating their how they think about the value of this type of contribution. Okay, so I think those two things meet at the right time, at the right point. Then we can really accelerate the use, for example, the use of data for the industrial use or starting a new startup or something like that. So I think we are at the right time right now.
So I would say, I think you bring up a very important and critical point that I think actually AI really had an effect on, in my view, what is really an asset of a company. So I think if you look back multiple years ago, I think people who developed models or had computational tools maybe they could, they had some IP that they held that was an advantage over others. I think that gap now with AI has been closing to a large degree. Because nowadays, you don't need to even be a very good programmer to be using a lot of the existing software that is out there. And there's a lot of open source models, so you can, even with a very small team, you can bridge the gap, bridge a very big computational gap that you had before. So I think a company that is only based on now clever computational models, with the open source, with the ability of AI tools itself, Copilot and so on, to do some of the programming for you, that gap is narrowed. So I think it's going to be very hard now to only have that as a leverage of a company. So in other words, you need to have also some other unique asset for the company beyond just models and computation. I think for us, it's definitely the data. So especially in the field of healthcare, if you look at what really made the revolution of AI, it's models, it's compute power, and it's data. Okay? And if you look at vision applications, text applications, there's a ton of data. It's publicly available, so everybody, OpenAI and other companies could take that data and build models. In the healthcare space, the data is not publicly available. That's one. And second, which is why we built the HPP, we thought that even if you had all the data that's available, that's not good enough data. Because if data from, say, health records is very shallow data, you can have it on millions of people, but it only gives you indications, medications, blood tests. It doesn't give you any molecular data, none of the advanced multi-omics, which is why we went through the trouble of building this type of data. And then I think that actually becomes a core asset, because that enables the next generation tools of AI to be built on top of that. So in fact, if you have an asset, in my view, with some proprietary data, I think the new AI tools actually just made your asset be much more valuable, because they gave you tools by which you can unlock and extract much more information from that asset that you had.
So the AI itself is becoming a bit of a commodity, is kind of what
AI,
I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
It's great news, actually. It's been a major bottleneck for the life sciences for probably going on over 20 years at this point. So now the bottleneck is data, high quality data, which it looks like everyone on this panel is helping us solve. Mori-san, from your pharma perspective, what do you, when you put that hat on, what do you think of in terms of the IP piece in these cohort projects and commercializing the value out of them?
Yeah, so I think since AI, like a foundation model, I think model itself is difficult to be, patentable because algorithm is a black box. So if I were the pharma person, the speed is one of the important factor to get to the real IP we can utilize for the product, rather than the model itself. I think that is the the important factor to increase the competitiveness of the company.
Excellent. Okay, Eran, coming back to you and going a little bit more into the regulatory aspects of building cohorts. The models that you're building require very deep phenotypic data, and for those not familiar, there's a regulation in Europe called the GDPR that heavily influences data sharing from Europe, and certainly there are regional regulations, within China and data that can lead China. How are you navigating those, let's say, compliance obligations while actually preserving data utility? We're hearing now HPP is scaling to Japan, it's scaling to Abu Dhabi. What do we have to think about there in the long run, and will we have cross-cohort utility?
Yeah, so that's actually also a very good point that we're addressing, I would say, in two different ways. One is obviously complying with regulations. So for example, in Abu Dhabi, also in Japan, data cannot leave the country, but there's a solution to that, because you put the data on the servers in the cloud that is based here, and then you can do and that doesn't really limit you, because you can basically move around summary statistics of the data which are good enough in order to build the models from them. So of course you comply with regulations, and so far they haven't been too restrictive. There's only actually one country in Europe, in Denmark, for example, we came across a case where data was not even allowed to go on the cloud. This is irrespective of HPP. Just in general, regulators there right now do not allow data to go on the cloud, so that's a showstopper in that case. But that's an extreme. We haven't seen that in other countries. The other approach, I think, is a much more interesting approach that we're starting to develop, and it's an AI-based approach, where the idea is that you don't necessarily need the actual raw data of a person in order to learn the model. So what I mean by that is that now we're learning to take the data of a person and create a synthetic representation of that person, which is not identical but close enough to that person that by close enough I mean that you can show that the models that you build on top of that are actually performing as good as when you use the original data. So I'll mention one specific project that we have. We have the retina scans that I showed. So we learned a model that, based on the age and gender of a person, can generate synthetic images of people that don't exist, but of a certain age and gender. And then we show that if you try to learn a model that predicts certain traits, and you use either the raw data or a lot of this synthetic data that is generated from a model that saw actual real data, then for those tasks that we evaluated, the models trained on synthetic data perform as good as the models on the original data. So in fact, you can then use the real data to learn models that can generate synthetic data that you then take that synthetic data to generate to generate your other tasks, and then you're circumventing the regulatory issues because you can create synthetic data sets of fake people, but they capture the actual characteristics of real data, and there's no regulatory issue of giving them away. And so I think even that development in itself could be very interesting and also addresses the regulatory issues.
Yeah, it sounds like synthetic data could make all us scientists obsolete at some point.
No, I don't think so. But.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay, coming back to you, Seita Sensei, one thing that we hear about in the United States, in addition to the kind of differences in Japan population, and full disclosure, I was at Takeda Pharmaceuticals for 8 years, so we constantly had to tackle the, let's say, genetic, environmental, and certainly regulatory differences in the Japanese population as imperative to developing therapeutics here. And so everyone knows that there is just quite a few things different about Japan from the rest of the world. What techniques do you employ to ensure that maybe some of your models might generalize across ethnicities? Do we know if they generalize across ethnicities and healthcare systems? Talk to us about this.
That's a tough question. Actually, in Japan, so the ethnicity is relatively very homogeneous. Okay, so that's an advantage and disadvantage for both to us, because in the bright side, then that means that we need just only one model with the less noisy or the less distributed data set. Okay. But then that model won't work if the model travels to the other countries. Okay, so and that particularly the showing the how we need to gather the data across the border. Okay, so otherwise the model cannot run the difference of the ethnicity of such kind of thing. So and again, so. At the beginning of the designing of such kind of cohort data, especially in Japan, we never put the vision to collaborate with the other country with that particular cohort. So I think this is the very first case that from the beginning we're aiming to share the cohort data from the other country or the ethnicity or whatever, the genetical type. So I think this is a very the important first step for even for the Japanese people.
Can I ask you to speculate, given that we're going to have this data set that's maybe comparable between Japan and the rest of the world, do you expect to see strong differences still from the Japan population from the rest of the world? Or do you think there are going to be points at which maybe it's not so exceptional and not so different? Please speculate if you feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
but actually, so I was in the United States from 2006 to 2016. And if we study in the US, we know that we have Asian American, the European American, the African American, such kind of thing. So in the particular country, we can see, for example, some information about the Japanese type, the cohort data in the United States. So it's already there.
Okay. All right. All right. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the business aspects of thinking about deep learning and advanced computation in the VC ecosystem. So, Chieko, what skills do you think VC-backed startups should prioritize when they're building teams that bridge business, clinical, and deep learning and all of the techniques that are going into the cohort work the panel is doing?
Yeah, I think of course, as it can be easily imagined, if we try to back the such kind of startups, it is important that the company has a really great understanding in the AI or like deep learning type of capability and knowledges. But also, if the company try to utilize such data for the any the pharmaceutical related, for example, application, then the company also need to have a capability in regulatory or clinical operations, etc. So I think it's not like a single capability that can serve the setup much stronger, but combination of both sides is very much important. And one of the good the important role for such startup is more in a translational scientist who can leverage both in a very high-end science side and also business side. That kind of capability is a key if the startup pursue the business opportunity in the commercial market. That is my view.
So it sounds like there's a theme too between one of Eran's previous comments, right? That the computation it's like a nucleus, but maybe not enough to bring something to market here. So it's important to bring the right expertise for your company to bear in that team. That's great. Okay, just a couple more questions. I want to get to the magic wand question I want to ask at the end, but between now and then, just one scientific question. They're looking beyond the current ChatGPT and maybe transformer approaches. What are the emerging approaches in computation that maybe hold untapped potential for cohort analysis? Eran, you mentioned some, foundation models, right? What are you thinking about there as you embark on the kind of bleeding edge of advanced computation, and how soon before they impact real world solutions?
So first of all, I think they're starting to really impact, like not just ours, but I think the types of models that I was showing that can begin to look at, say, a measurement of a person like a CGM and tell whether that person needs intervention, lifestyle intervention or not. I think those models, we are beginning to have them already. I think where we might be going are more to these, I call them digital twin. You can have multiple words for it, but these kind of personal AI assistants, if you will, that will really inform you, and they'll be personalized because they'll be trained on many people, but then the predictions that they'll give will be tailored to the data that you give them about yourself. So that's why they become personalized, and the more data that they accumulate over time, the more they'll be tuned to you and the better they'll be performing. So I think on the path to that, we probably will have to develop new types of learning architectures. I think some of these, we've seen some really interesting works recently. For example, Google published this paper on this AI co-scientist, which didn't really write any much new code, but kind of pieced together large language models that they had, but in an interesting way, where kind of one model generates hypotheses, another model evaluates which hypotheses are actually the best, and then kind of you work with these models together. So I think we'll start to also see some of these models being pieced together in interesting ways, and we'll need other new types of approaches to kind of bring all this data together towards these personalized digital twins.
Seita Sensei, what are the new emerging computation that you're looking at and that you're excited about for the future?
So I think the most important thing is like 3 years ago, all of the AI, the medical or the biological people try to make the very specific AI model, because that is the best way to get the highest precision. But then now it's completely opposite. Okay, so now we all have to think that how to make the general model. Okay? So that's the one thing that we need to really catch up, because the developmental speed of the general AI is much faster if compared to the AI in the medical field. And that is also the advantage for us, because we just wait, then pick the best crop from the lots of the competition and the test case. Okay, like then, for example, we can apply the latest the generative model to make the digital slightly different twin, right? To overcome the regression issue or something like that. So I think that's actually the advantage for the healthcare field for us, okay? Because the AI itself is advancing very fast.
Okay, and then before we hit our final question, again, back out to the startups here and maybe early stage companies or folks in academia thinking about starting companies. Are there particular data sets or models that you think could distinguish or maybe help a startup stand out from the crowd? For those thinking about entrepreneurship, what do you think helps create that differentiation from just a pure data perspective?
Yeah, I think that is that's a good question. Yeah, so I think it becomes much easier to acquire data from the public or open data sources. So to be unique, to get the unique position, of course, like the hard to get type of the information is the most critical. So maybe it's easy to take people's like the sleep data or like exercise. I wear Apple Watch, and any other people also do the same. But something more invasive, data is difficult to obtain, and data point is not so much big. So having the such a unique and hard to get type of the data set, if the startup or academia have such data set, that can be the very good unique value they can create.
I think I 100% agree.
I would say maybe 3 features. It has to be unique, right? It has to be valuable. We can think of many unique data sets that are not valuable. And it has to be a data set, a type of data where you can also maintain your advantage and uniqueness over time, right? Because if you have some unique data set, but then your competitor can catch up very easily, then you also will lose your advantage in a short period of time. So I think those are maybe the 3 key points.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I heard recently that from a discovery scientist in a pharma. He said, blood, that's pretty easy to get. Show me some tissue from a patient. That's not something I can get every day, right? So this exactly speaks to your point. It's unique. It's maybe challenging to get. And maybe if you had a position in obtaining it, you could maintain an edge. Okay, just in our final few minutes, I like the magic wand question. So if you had a magic wand and you could if you had a magic wand and you could maybe remove a bottleneck or accelerate a technology in your cohort, and you could ask maybe do something crazy without a limit that's currently on you, what would you use the magic wand to do for HPP, for studying cohorts in Japan, for HPP Japan? Seita Sensei, what do you use your magic wand to do?
I want to show them the time scale.
So you want to accelerate everyone's aging so that you can collect their data faster?
No, I want to have a time machine to collect data, then come back to here.
Time machine. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's a good use of the magic wand. Eran?
I think for me it would be some wearable device so that we can track data continuously that is measuring a large set of biomarkers of use. I think, and again, it goes back to this idea of we see that there's a lot of value in tracking the same person over time. And I think it was mentioned before that we don't have enough time points from the same person. So we'd like to track people longitudinally and with much more valuable information compared to what we have now. And it's, again, data that is, I think, the key.
Yeah, I think this is last week in Boston, there was a panel speaking on the use of AI in biotech and pharma, and one of the chief medical officers of Boston Children's Hospital, who's a physician scientist, she said something similar. She said, I walk into a patient's room and they're hooked up to 3 machines in when they're an inpatient, and as a physician I can sit there and look at data in real time and make a decision, and even in some cases we're recording some of these data, but at every second we're all producing data and it's lost, right?
Exactly,
so it's exactly your comment, the wearable that measures everything in real time. So there's an inventive opportunity for the audience. Chieko, yourself, what do you use your magic wand to do?
Yeah, so my, I wanted the magic, which is most out of dated, but I'm now just started the cohort in Japan, and I'm struggling how I can attract the people who are willing to participate that cohort. Of course, as someone who is very interested in their health condition or this kind of innovation, some people are very keen on participating this HPP cohort, but still we need education, or we need some sort of socialization to attract the people to this cohort. And as we've already discussed, that data is very important. And if we can get more data in Japan cohort, we can discover more. So if I can use the magic that attract many people to join the Japanese cohort, I think that would be very much fantastic for me and for us, I guess.
And can you remind the audience, where is HPP Japan based?
So currently, we started our cohort in Shizuoka Prefecture. So we are working very closely the clinic, which name is SBS Shizuoka Kenko Zoshin Center, that is located in Shizuoka City in Shizuoka Prefecture. And we also work very closely with Seita Sensei Riken and also other stakeholders as well. So if you have any the friends in Shizuoka, please share this information.
So please spread the word, and it sounds like there's maybe a participatory opportunity for some of the people in the audience.
Welcome anyone who could join this HPP. That would be great.
Yeah, take Shinkansen.
Yes.
Okay, well, with that, I think we don't want to stand between the audience and coffee or your healthful drink or dinner. So I want to thank our panel for participating. Thank you for the audience for staying this late in the day. And let's end and close maybe day one and look forward to the future tomorrow.
And with those words, we have a couple of announcements for dinner before we get on to the finer things in life. First of all, welcome back from a very busy, very exciting day of keynotes, panels, and discussions. I hope that you have experienced some wonderful things, had some wonderful conversations, and that you still have the energy to do the same thing over dinner. Because we have dinner starting at 7 at a place called Fugetsuro. Everybody is invited. Everybody who's sitting here is more than welcome to join. There are going to be, for our main participant core, there are going to be buses from both of the hotels, from Eran at 18:45, taking you to the restaurant, and from Sheraton at 18:50. As to how you're going to get back to the hotels, starting at 5:30, every 15 minutes for about an hour, there's going to be shuttle buses taking you back to the hotels from the same place that you got here to. So no stress, just walk back, take a shuttle bus, and from Eran at 18:45 and Sheraton at 18:50, you find your way toward Fugetsuro and have some wonderful Okinawan food, Okinawan music, and Okinawan dance and conversations, and I guess a wonderful end to a great day. However, before you plan on a very long night, we actually have another special experience for you as you're enjoying other special experiences of OIST and Okinawa. I would like to invite our Tomoko Ishikura if she would like to announce tomorrow's morning special session. Come on. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you so much for staying for a few minutes longer. So I'm a managing director at the Kika Ventures, and we invest in the future of healthcare, including microbiome, neuroscience, and longevity. So that's how I originally got to know this conference. But in addition to my work at Kika Ventures, I have been studying and practicing Karmapa Buddhism over the last 10 years. And I have been had an opportunity to engage in different retreats all over the world, and have been teaching at the Karmapa Meditation Center in Japan, and also teaching at the healthcare conferences and also company offices. And I was given this opportunity tomorrow morning to guide a meditation. And a little bit about Karmapa Buddhism. So this is Buddhism originated from Buddha Shakyamuni 2,500 years ago. But what's unique about this tradition is its representation. So it's presented in the way that people, like modern people like us, who have works, relationships, different types of commitments, busy life, can easily put into practice in our daily lives and benefit from those teachings to solve our problems, improve our relationships, and be happy. So yeah, I think I have benefited a lot as a venture capital from these teachings. And maybe a little bit about meditation itself. So meditation, the definition of a meditation in Karmapa Buddhism is a mind that focuses on the virtuous objects and that functions to make our mind peaceful. So when we meditate, our mind changes from unpeaceful to peaceful, uncontrolled to control, unhappy to happy. But for this meditation to function, we first need to find the object of meditation that we are meditating on. So we need to spend some time on contemplating, kind of guiding our mind to generate this object. I don't want to take too much time, but just to give you an example of a meditation on equanimity. So to generate a mind of equanimity, one of the methods we can use as a contemplation is we can contemplate how everyone just wishes to be happy and be free from problems and sufferings. Like we all wish to experience happiness and be free from problems, including the sufferings of aging, sickness, and death. And this is the very basic wish that we share with everyone, regardless of gender, ages, and nationality. And by contemplating this, we can generate an object which is, in this respect, we are just the same. We're just the same. And then by meditating on this, we can generate this mind of equanimity, but more importantly, by remembering this object throughout the day, every time we meet someone, we can remember, you are just wishing to be happy, just like me, so we are just the same. And then we can feel close to everyone, and then we can solve the problem of having an unbalanced mind, like feeling unhappy to meet someone, but always feel close and then be happy to meet anyone. So tomorrow morning, I'm hoping to guide you on a meditation on an object that helps us to release our stress, to let go of our stress. And we have a lot of amazing development externally in our world, but I don't think our stress has really decreased. And the stress has lots of effect on our health. We don't have enough space within our mind to be creative. It affects our happiness, quality of life. So I'm hoping that this meditation, you can use it as a tool to manage your stress in your daily life. And then it can be something that you can bring back home and then continue to practice and benefit from it. So that's what my hope. And then just add a little bit, so this Kadampa tradition, we have 1,200 centers all over the world, but we don't have any center in Japan. And one of the reasons I'm working on this Kika Ventures is we invest in high risk and high return space. And then if we have high return, I'm hoping to start a meditation centers in Japan, because I do believe Japanese people can also benefit from having these tools to control our minds. And this is the first time I'm guiding meditation in Japan. And I'm so grateful to have given this opportunity to create a cause and a plant seed. So thank you so much.
Time and location?
It's going to be at 8:50 tomorrow morning in the C210 room, which is one floor up. But I believe our wonderful organizers are going to be here to help tomorrow. So with that being said, the buses are going to start taking you to your hotels at 5:30. We are going to see everybody who still has the energy to talk and discuss and enjoy Okinawan cuisine, music, and dance at 7 at Fugetsuro. Thank you so much for a wonderful day one, and see you tomorrow.